All right, guys. So we worked on this on day 30, but I want to go back and really see that we make sure we understand what we're doing here. So this is a factored form of a polynomial, and this is going to be a 3 plus 2, so it should be a 5-degree polynomial. And things you will know about that is that means there will be 5 directional changes, speaking to like increase, decrease, and all of those fun things. But in this worksheet, all we're discussing is what are the zeros, and that's solving it. So taking your factor and setting it equal to 0. And so we're going to add it over. So that's going to be x equals 3. So to the factor x minus 3, the 0 is a positive 3. The multiplicity is the degree when it's written this way in factored form. So it's going to happen 3 times. And if you look at it on a graph, then it's just going to barely, like all your odds are going to cross, but it's going to flatline a little bit. So a cubic function looks something like this. It just depends on the extremity of that curve, but always a 3-degree will cross. So even degrees touch, odd degrees, so 1, like a straight line, crosses straight through the axis. 3 and 5 and things like that, it is going to cross through. It just might do so a little slower. So x plus 1, we need to find that 0. So we're going to set it equal to 0. You did this in Math 1 when you were solving for quadratics, when you would factor a quadratic and then solve it. The degree is 2, so the multiplicity is 2. So this is going to touch. That's where it really bounces off the x-axis. So maybe it looks like this, but it doesn't cross through and keep going into a different quadrant. It just comes right back down as far as positive and negative. Number 2 is x minus 4. We're going to do x minus 4 equals 0. So the 0 is a positive 4. There are no exponents, so that means the multiplicity is 1, and it's going to cross straight through. Then x plus 5, set it equal to 0. Move that 5 by subtraction. So our 0 is a negative 5. Our multiplicity again is 1 because there's no actual exponent there. And it's going to cross through because that is an odd exponent. Looking at the other one, we have 1, 2, 3 here. But this has an exponent of 1, exponent of 1. So 4, 5, 6. So this is going to be a 6-degree polynomial when we're done, if you were to look at the way it graphed. Our x, so we're going to set it up x equals 0. That's it. So our 0 is 0. The multiplicity is 1 because there is no exponent. That's odd, so it is going to cross through. X minus 2. We set it equal to 0. We move that 2. That's going to become a positive 2. So our 0 is 2 for our second factor. And the degree is 4, which means that multiplicity is also going to be 4. And it's an even number, so that means it's going to touch and bounce back off. And then last but not least, we have x plus 3. And we're going to set that equal to 0. And we're going to subtract that 3 over. And it's going to give me x equals a negative 3. So for the factor of x plus 3, the 0 is a negative 3. And remember, zeros are the same things as roots, same thing as x-intercepts, as long as we're speaking to real zeros or real solutions and solutions. Number 4, I challenge you, if you didn't do it the other day, to pause your video and see if you can fill this one out. So x to the third equals 0. To undo cubing something or to the third power, you would take the cube root. The cube root of 0 would be 0 times 0 times 0, which means our 0 is 0. Lots of zeros there. Our degree is 3, so our multiplicity is 3, which is odd, which means it is going to cross. The second one is x minus 1. So x minus 1 equals 0. We're going to get a positive 1, and the multiplicity is 1 because there is no exponent there. It is odd, so it is also going to cross again. And then x minus 5, I'm going to move that over by adding 5, so x is going to equal to 5. So our 0 is 5 for our factor of x minus 5. There is a 2 exponent there, so that means that multiplicity is 2, which is even. So it's going to touch and bounce in that case. So number 5, x plus 2, set it equal to 0. X equals a negative 2, so that's going to be a negative 2, 0. It's raised to the third power, or 3 degree, so it's going to be a multiplicity of 3. Multiplicity of 3 is odd, so it is going to cross through the x-axis. Then x plus 6, set it equal to 0. Solve for x. We're going to subtract 6, so x is going to equal to a negative 6. There is no exponent, so that means a multiplicity of 1 means it is going to cross through the x-axis again. And then we have x squared, so x squared equals 0. Again, to get just like the cube, to cube something, you would take the cube root. We're going to take the square root. So what number did I multiply by itself to give me 0? And that is 0 times 0. So our 0 is 0. And the multiplicity, because there is an exponent of 2, is 2, which is even, means it is going to touch and bounce. So to wrap up from this point, an even degree will always touch and bounce. An odd degree, so that's 1, 3, 5, will always cross. And again, even means divisible by 3. Divisible by 2. And then odd means it is not divisible by 2. So it's not going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That is even. Even Steven. All right, the next page of this worksheet, guys, we got this. Hopefully that helps a little bit, even though we just changed the formatting the way it looks. So our zeros. We have a -3. We have a 2. And we have a +5. The multiplicity of -3, it crossed straight through, so that's going to be a 1. The 2 bounced, so we're going to say that's a 2. And then our 5 went straight through, so that's a 1. Now, your factor, remember, so if my 0 is 3, so x equals a -3, 0 is -3, I want to get it back onto one side and set it equal to 0, because at this point we already solved for x. So I'm going to move that 3 back over, which means I'm going to add it. So my factor is going to be x plus 3. And our behavior, since the multiplicity 1, it did cross through. So our 0 is 2, so x equals 2. We want to move it back over here to the side where x is, and we're cross that equal mark, so we're going to do our inverse. So x minus 2 is going to be our factor. It is a multiplicity of 2, so it's going to have a 2 up here, and that means it is even, so it is going to touch and bounce, touch and go, touch and go. And we have a +5, so x equals 5. Move it back over here. X minus 5 is going to be our factor. It is a 1, which means it is going to cross straight through at 5, as we see in the graph. Number 9, so you have -1, 2, and this is what we would talk about a flat line. When I talk about flat line, how it didn't really bounce back. It didn't go directly through. It kind of took a little detour, but it did cross through. As we said, all odd exponents or degrees are crossed through. So it is going to go all the way through. It just takes a little time to get there. So our 0 is -1. Our multiplicity of -1, it bounced straight back down. So we're going to put 2. X equals -1. We're going to move it back over here to the side with the x. So we're going to add 1. So x plus 1 is going to be the factor that gives me the solution of -1. So x plus 1. Multiplicity of 2, so it's a touch and go and bounce back. We're going to keep working. Our another x-intercept 0 or root would be +2. And it has a multiplicity, because it flatlines, it's a multiplicity of 3. And that means we're going to put x equals 2. Get it over here with the x. We're going to take its inverse, because that's how we undo putting it on that side as it crosses the the equal marks. So x minus 2. And our multiplicity is 3. And because it's odd, we know it's going to cross, because it kept going up. It crossed the x-axis just a little bit slower than, say, a 1. And then our last 0 for this guy is 4. And we're going to put x equals 4. Move it over with the x, which means we're going to take the opposite. So it's x minus 4 is my factor. And the multiplicity, because it crossed straight through, is 1, which is odd, which means we know it crossed straight through. All right, we're almost done. Hopefully this is starting to make sense. We got a 0 at -4. Multiplicity of 1, because it crossed straight through. Then we're going to keep going, and that means our factor is x equals a -4. We're going to move that -4 over and take the opposite, because we're getting it set equal to 0. So it's x plus 4. It is a multiplicity of 1, so no need to draw an exponent, and it does cross through that axis. Our next 0 is a -2. It went straight through, so it's a multiplicity of 1. So x equals -2. We're going to move it over. That's going to be x plus 2 as a factor. And the behavior is that it went straight through and crossed again. So we have a 0 here at +1. It crossed straight through, so its multiplicity is 1. X equals +1. Move it back over to the side where x is, so we can set it equal to 0. And that's x minus 1 as your factor. No need to write an exponent, because again, it's to the 1. And then it crossed straight through. Last but not least, guys, and hopefully it's starting to all sink in, we got a 0 at 4. That multiplicity, because it bounced, is going to be a 2. We're going to take x, set it equal to 4, move it. It's going to be x minus 4 for my factor. And the behavior, because it's a multiplicity of 2, we're going to square it, and that means it's going to touch and bounce back. All right, guys, I hope that ironed out any questions. As always, email me or text me and let me know what you don't understand. You can count on this kind of stuff being on the EOC. And we love those pocket questions so we can walk in the door confident and ready to kick that thing's butt. All right, great job.